Hey, what's going on, guys? If you didn't know, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are coming out in a few days, so let's talk about Digimon. But in all seriousness, while I'm definitely excited for the upcoming Pokemon titles and will be providing coverage for them, I've had this sort of Digimon fever for a while and just really am looking for any excuse possible to talk about the future of the series. That being said, we do know that multiple Digimon games are currently in the works, and while I do think that the vast majority of these are probably just ports since we see Digimon World Next Order coming to the Switch in February, I do like to imagine that at least one of them is a unique Digimon game other than the Digimon story title that we already know is in the works. That said, I thought it'd be really fun to go over my top 3 most wanted new Digimon games. While something like Pokemon is very formulaic in that basically you know what you're getting each time you pick up one of their games, Digimon is vastly different in that truly anything is possible when it comes to an upcoming title. I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I definitely do like the comfort that comes with buying a Pokemon game, but the surprise factor and variance of games when it comes to Digimon is also nice. Anyways, all that being said, if you are a fan of Digimon or monster taming games, definitely subscribe to the channel because I put out new monster taming content every single day. And with that, let's dive in. Okay, so quickly before we get to the list, the reason I picked 3 instead of 5 or even 10 is because while I have a lot of cool ideas for Digimon games, I wanted to spend more time talking about how each game would work and really hone in on 3 that I think would be some really damn cool ideas, but will also require a bit of open-mindedness, especially from hardcore Digimon fans. I've said this before, and I've always been honest about it. I am someone who fell off Digimon for roughly 2 decades before getting back into it within the last couple years. These are just my opinions, and they're no more valid than anybody else's just because I have a YouTube channel. I like Digimon, you like Digimon, we all like Digimon, and I just wanted to give you guys some of my ideas for future titles, but very much want to know yours in the comments. Anyways, let's get into number 3. Number 3, Digimon Survive 2. Okay, so before you click off this video and tell me how dirty I am for enjoying Digimon Survive, I really do think that it was a fun and interesting title, though obviously not perfect. Furthermore, I don't expect a direct sequel because there were 4 separate endings, 5 if you include the game over ending, and it would be a mess trying to funnel every one of those endings together since most people probably only played through one of them. That said, I do think there are certain aspects to the formula that they can improve upon, and another installment to the series would be welcome in my books. One thing, and I know I might offend fans of Survive for this, is the dialogue itself. While I do agree that visual novels need to have dialogue, obviously, I did in some instances feel like the game presented a little too much unnecessary banter, and instead of a 70-30 split, I'd like to see something closer to 50-50 with a greater emphasis on gameplay, but with enough visual novel aspects to still tell a compelling story with branching paths. I'd like them to extend upon the tactical RPG elements within the game as well, because while to someone like me who's brand new to the TRPG scene found this game to be a great introduction, it definitely feels very surface level, especially early on. And I did find that a lot of turns are just spent trying to get closer to your enemies, so an improvement to that would be nice too. As for the story itself, there's a lot they can do, whether they decide to create a brand new universe with a different premise, or create some sort of prequel, since we did see that Digimon in this world are something of legend, but either way, I think they could easily come up with an interesting premise. Something else I'd like to see improved in the game as well is an expansion to the roster itself, as to this day I see many comments on my various videos wishing that certain Digimon would have been brought to the game. Personally, I would have liked to see the Vmon line, the Inframon line, because I don't remember its rookie stage name, and the Terriermon line, just to name a few. Other than that, I'd just basically like to see more of Digimon Survive and its premise with some improvements to make the game even more enjoyable. Number 2, Monster Rancher X Digimon. Now, before you get your pitchforks out and tell me that this would never happen and it's completely impossible, I want you to remember that Bandai Namco actually publishes both Digimon and Monster Rancher games, and recently came out with Ultra Kaiju Monster Rancher, which was a cross between the Ultraman series and classic Monster Rancher games. The crossover in and of itself would actually be harder for Bandai Namco to achieve than a crossover with Digimon because, while yes, still a collaboration, it's under the same publisher. To a much smaller degree, we've seen these type of publisher crossovers with Abomination and Bug Fables, so I'd like to see them do something like that as well. Essentially, how I'd like this crossover to take place is basically what we got with Ultra Kaiju Monster Rancher. I'd love to see essentially a Monster Rancher game with the Digimon skin, and yes, we have Digimon World, and while it does share similarities when it comes to stat raising and the just general raising elements, Monster Rancher has its own unique combat system, its crossbreeding mechanics, and Monster Rancher is just Monster Rancher. So imagine basically where the Kaiju replace the classic Monster Rancher monsters. I'd also like to see Digimon replace them instead, with a couple classic Monster Rancher monsters kind of mixed in in there. Now, there are a couple hurdles to get over in making something like this work. Firstly, there's different ways they could handle evolution. They could do it based on monster stat total, or they could have a specific new system that's catered towards it, sort of like how we got traits with Ultra Kaiju, but I'm sure they could figure something out on that aspect. As far as fusion is concerned, they could either go the Monster Rancher route and just have a bunch of different colored versions of the same Digimon, like how if you crossbreed two monsters, a subspecies is the color while the species is the actual form, or they could do something like the more classical Digimon fusion and have, for example, fusing Metal Garurumon and War Greymon create Omnimon. I actually recently tried Digital Tamers Reborn, which is a fan game created by Dragonrod, and this very much plays how I'd imagine a Monster Rancher and Digimon collaboration to be, but I'd like even more of Monster Rancher's mechanics when it comes to battles and stuff like that. If you want to see what that game's all about, definitely check out this video I uploaded regarding it. It's actually pretty awesome. Whichever way they decide to go, I do think that this would be a really fun title, and since Ultra Kaiju Monster Rancher did really well in Japan, scoring a 10 out of 10 score, and Digimon to this day has always been popular in Japan, I can definitely see this as a viable business option too. So Bandai Namco, if you're watching, instead of copyright claiming my videos, make this happen. Number 1, a Pokemon-like Digimon game. Okay, so this type of Digimon game is something that I've seen cause a divide amongst Digimon fans. Some state that they would love a Digimon game in the same vein as Pokemon, sort of something like the Digimon story games, but more Pokemon-esque, if that makes any sense. There's actually a game being developed right now by Dragonrod, the creator of Digital Tamers Reborn, whom, by the way, if it wasn't already obvious, I simped for Dragonrod. They're very talented. But essentially, this is going to follow that formula. In this game, you must explore the digital world and interact with other Digimon in one-on-one battles. As you can see on screen, the overworld, which is heavily work in progress, by the way, includes your grass where you encounter enemy Digimon, you'll be able to capture them and create a team, stuff like that. I'm not saying that I want a Digimon game just to be a one-for-one copy of what Pokemon does, but I would like something in that sort of more collection-based range, similar to something like Coromon or Nexomon. Realistically, a Digimon story game could fit this title, but at least from what we saw with Cyber Sleuth, the game is very dialogue heavy, and I'd prefer something with a little more of an emphasis on exploration, with the story still obviously being engaging but not intrusive. I love me a good story, but I also think that Digimon games do already focus very heavily in the story aspect, and something that doesn't would be refreshing as well. My scenario for this game would essentially be that for some reason or another, you and a bunch of other people have been getting sucked into the digital world over the course of many years, and human societies have formed there as a result. No one really knows why they're there, but everyone just sort of makes do with what they have. You have farmers that grow meat, because that's a hilarious thing that happens in the Digimon world, and it should stay in every game. You have man-made infrastructure that was built, there's even government, etc. You don't really know why you or anyone else is there, but a lot of people have just come peace with the fact that they're stuck, and collecting and battling Digimon is some sort of customary, and perhaps there could be some sort of tournament or competition that's based around this sport. I feel like because Digimon has such a dynamic and flexible history, they can really get away with having any sort of new, unique world, and this is definitely one I'd like to see. This could quite heavily differ from Pokemon, as the Digimon themselves are sapient, and having them form their own societies alongside humans, and having them adapt to this new reality could be a really good plot point, especially if there are conflicts between diverging groups. You could have it so that the game's climax revolves around why the humans have been sent there, or you could just even let it be that we don't know why, and just have more personal stakes, like perhaps you were born in this digital world and you grew up just wanting to be the best Digimon tamer. Whichever way they go about it, I think this could be a really cool idea, and I could definitely see myself enjoying this type of game. But yeah, there you go, guys. Those are my top 3 picks for future Digimon titles. Do note that there are a plethora of Digimon games that I actually haven't had the chance to sit down and play, so if any of what I just mentioned seems like in part exists in another Digimon title, that was completely non-intentional. I'm still working on playing all of the old classic Digimon games, but for now, let me know in the comment section what kind of Digimon games you'd like to see, and if you do want to stay up to date on Digimon news and the overarching monster taming genre, definitely subscribe to my channel for daily monster taming uploads. You can also check out my Twitter, my Discord, and my Patreon linked below. Special thanks to the patrons, especially Jim Hamilton, Dro Ghost, Dark Persona, and Exodus, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.